Bro, what is going on?
I can't believe it's Monday already again.
Yeah.
Last week went incredibly fast, and I was like, "Oh, okay, we'll do that today because it's Monday."
I know, right? I feel like last week I got the podcast edited on Tuesday, but I think I did it on Wednesday. I can't remember, but it was a hilarious cluster from the both of us on that, which made the week kind of feel weird to me.
Yeah.
I totally missed your song, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
And the show notes were missing for a few hours, but they're there now. So
yeah, the show notes were about 3 hours late. But it's all good.
Hey, you know what? They're there now, but your song is not. So
that's true.
I think you won.
So yeah, last week's song will be in this week's episode. Not that they're episode specific by any means, but
Chad,
yeah,
God willing, last week's song. I mean, I make no guarantees at this point. But at least I'm getting back to somewhat normalcy, I guess. I'm working in the office this week, so
weird.
Which is it's good and bad, right? I loved working from home, but I didn't have a permanent setup, and my computer was slow as balls, so it just wasn't perfect. I get to work, I have my 2 screens, I have a comfortable chair, I have a standing workstation, and my computer's fast. So I feel more productive at work, but I love the conveniences of home.
So riddle me this, Batman. I went in a day and a half 2 weeks ago, like a Wednesday afternoon and Thursday all day. And I knew that I missed my dual screens, but what I had trouble getting used to again was how big each screen is. Once you get used to a 13.5-ish inch laptop screen, those 18, 19-inch monitors, they're massive. And so I felt like to look from the left side of my left screen to the right side of my right screen, I was like, my neck hasn't moved this much in 6 weeks.
I didn't really notice the size all that much because my monitor on my laptop is 16 inches, I think.
Okay.
And I had a 24-inch monitor next to it. So I had 2 monitors.
Oh, yeah, I've been rocking the small laptop, and that's it. One screen.
Actually, my second monitor was a TV. I just hooked it up with HDMI.
Nice.
It wasn't the best, but it did the job. The thing I noticed was I felt like it was weird having my monitors at eye level. The ergonomics is so good in the office for me.
Right.
At home, I was looking down the whole time. So no wonder my back was sore every day for the past 2 months, looking down at a monitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, this weekend, I went on a little hike down in Branson, got a little getaway with the family, took Jessica and the kids down there for Mother's Day, and we went to the White River Valley Trail, I think is what it's called. I've been there a lot mountain biking in the past, but it really made me want to go mountain biking there again. It is just such a cool trail. Have you ever been there?
No. Was it busy?
No, it wasn't busy. We probably ran into 2 groups of people, no more than probably 4 people in a group.
Nice.
And it was just the typical trail type thing, there was one biker we ran into. The parking lot has cars in it, but you never see people. So that was a cool experience. But yeah, we're going to have to go down there and bike. I think you would love it. It's a mix between what I think of as Arkansas type trails with pine needles and a little bit of sandy soil, but then also rocks and roots like Sac River.
Nice.
So it's definitely fun. We enjoyed the hike. We did about 4.5 miles. And other than that, I worked on some YouTube video stuff, and I also worked on cleaning my bike. So I'm assuming you watched Seth's bike hacks about it might have been Burn Peak Express, about the pressure washer.
Yeah, I did.
So I've always had that theory of like people freaking out about a pressure washer being used on their bikes. And I'm like, if you have an old bike, yes, if it's not sealed bearings, but if you have a sealed bearing bike, in theory,
right,
the sealed bearings are designed to get pressure put on them. That they're specifically made to not have the grease leak out of them.
Yeah.
That's why whenever you have sealed bearings, you don't have grease points. But whenever you have bearings that aren't sealed, they have zert inserts and grease points, and bikes don't have zert inserts. They have sealed bearings for the most part. So I kind of agreed with him. I mean, yeah, there can be ingress in areas where you don't want them, but if you're careful and you know those areas that you're going to have problems with, you shouldn't have any issue. And also not using like the tightest stream. So anyways, I pressure washed my bike to get all the dirt off the tires and stuff and the frame.
Yeah.
And it looks really good. Now, it's not perfect because I didn't get super close to it because, you know, there's always that, what if?
Yeah.
But, man, it's looking good. It's looking good. So now I feel like I've got a fresh frame and a fresh, clean bike to start over with, and I can kind of detail it over the next week or so. But, man, it looks good. Wait until you see the video that I'm making about what bike I ride. You'll look at it and you'll be like, dang, that is clean. So what'd you do this weekend?
Yeah, we did the Mother's Day thing. Well, so the past 2 weekends we've had driveway parties with our neighbors.
Yeah, you have.
And they have been so enjoyable, and so this week was Saturday night, because I don't know if you remember, but Friday night it got super cold and crazy windy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Saturday night was still pretty cool, but one of the neighbors has one of those portable fire, I don't want to call it a fire pit, but kind of like a bowl with a lid, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they brought one of those to the driveway, and you know, we sat in a big circle and we talked and we drank beer, and it was fun. And I met people from 3 different houses that live really close to me that I've never met before. And I go, it's crazy that it took what we're going through now for us to all meet each other. We've all been here for 3 or 4 years and just never happened to run into each other, or because they're not right next door neighbors, like they're a couple houses down, but like still, you know, you should know your
Isn't
neighbors.
that weird? Isn't that weird? That I mean, it's just like everybody, and I think almost everybody is guilty of hermiting a little bit in their house. Like they get home, they're tired, they don't want to get out. When they do, it's usually just a casual wave. You don't know the person that lives next door to you. It's so weird, and I think that happens so much. So it's awesome that you're kind of connecting with the people around you. And as you being a dad with very young kids, that will make you and your wife feel better about them, because they will get to an age where, you know, you're not going to have to be out there with them every second of the day to play, but you also have to be worried about, you know, who's in your neighborhood. Right. And if you know them, that's a huge relief for a parent. Yeah. That's for sure.
Well, and the more families that know us, you know, when the kids are a little older, and either they, like, if I have a neighbor friend that sees my kids doing something they're not supposed to be doing, I want them to tell me that. You know? Yeah. Like, I want there to be a lot of eyes on my kids. And also, if one of the kids gets into, not gets into trouble, does something bad, but like gets into trouble, they have a bad bike crash on one of the streets, or, you know, someone picks them up, God forbid. Like, I want someone to know that, hey, isn't that the Blakey kids, and shouldn't we, that's not the Blakey parents. Like, we need to do something. Right.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah,
I mean,
all
that's
the way
big.
around it. The more people you know in the neighborhood, I think the better. And I know,
I agree.
I know my neighbor to the back. I know my neighbor on each side, and then I know the two corner houses across the street from me. But like that was pretty much it. And so it's been good to branch out a little bit. But then, so that was Saturday night. Then yesterday was Mother's Day, of course, and so I let my wife sleep in because that's the good dad thing to do. She doesn't sleep in as great as I do, so she made it till about 9:00. But we ran to Springfield and did a curbside Kohl's pickup, and then we got lunch and went to Springfield Lake and threw a blanket out in the grass and had a little picnic, and so that was pretty nice.
Nice.
It was a little bit windy, it was a little bit cool, but we had jackets, and so it was all right for 45 minutes or whatever. And then we just kind of came back, chilled at home. We went for a walk, a decent walk, and played outside a bit and called it a day.
Nice, man. Sounds like a good weekend.
It was a good weekend. It was regenerative.
Very cool. Well, on the topic of topics, I have more iPhone 12 leaks. I guess there were some pretty big things that kind of got leaked by somebody. I can't remember who the source was, but there's a guy on YouTube that has like a lot of followers and he gets a lot of stuff right. I'll have to look up what his name is, but he had some pretty big leaks that I want to talk about for the iPhone 12. Did you have anything for topics this week?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Tesla specifically, but I do want to talk about Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah. There's some big news.
There's all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, I feel like we'll just kind of quick hit several different things with him.
All right. I say we talk about it.
Let's do it. Welcome back to Lunchtime Tech Talk. I'm Chad.
And I'm Mike. So, do you want me to give some iPhone leaks first, or do you want to talk about Musky Musk?
Let's do the leaks. Let's do the stuff. Yeah, the important stuff.
Yeah. So for all of you that don't know, there's an iPhone that comes out every year. Which if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know that.
Sure.
But no, there's some pretty big leaks that came out. Pretty much all the major Apple fanboy websites talked about it. All the Apple YouTubers talked about it. But there's a guy named, let me see if I can find his name. Oh, EverythingApplePro. This guy, he does a lot of stuff on renders and predictions and somehow has some good sources that seem to give him fairly accurate information. But he has come out with kind of renderings of what they think that the iPhone will look like. It essentially looks like a shrunk down iPad Pro. So it's going to have those chiseled edges, the flat edges, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
As we've talked about 100,000 times. So that's not a real new rumor, but it's getting more and more, basically revealed by sources that this is coming.
Yeah.
And it probably has been in the works, and that's probably why we saw rumors last year, and possibly the year before last, because it's probably something that they've been working on, because they've done it on the iPad Pro since 2018, and people love it. It feels good in your hands to have that flat edge.
Yeah.
The other big thing is, just like the iPad Pro, they are talking about bringing the 120 hertz ProMotion display. So what this is going to give you right now, the displays on an iPhone are 60 hertz. And what the 120 hertz is going to do is, like, the best example is whenever you scroll back and forth between your app screens, like, you know how if you have multiple app screens, you can kind of see a little bit of a blur. Well, it's not always necessarily the app design that causes that blur. It's the screen not being able to keep up with the motion of the actual movement.
Gotcha.
So with 120 hertz, it's actually doubling the amount of it's actually doubling the quality of that motion. And it makes it feel like whenever your finger is on the screen and you're moving it, it makes it feel to your mind that it's more at the tip of your finger instead of under glass. So it gives it more of a crisp feel and look, I guess is the best way to put it.
Well, that I know of. I've never seen 120 hertz on a device, but I know that when we went from 60 to 120 hertz TVs, it made a huge difference for sports.
Yes, for sports it makes a very big difference.
Football changed by leaps and bounds in my viewing experience when we went to that technology. And so yeah. I didn't know what our phones ran on, but I'm looking forward to that now.
Yeah, and I'll be real curious to see on these smaller screens how big of a difference it makes. It does make a difference between an iPad. So if I look at my daughter's iPad and then my iPad Pro and I scroll back and forth between the app screens,
yeah,
it is a difference. There is a blurriness to hers and not to mine. So
there's a long way for it to travel too.
Yes.
Like on my screen, it's 2.5, 3 inches, something like that. Mm-hmm. It's not that far, but yeah.
Yeah.
So would it make a difference for someone that shoots, like if you're watching YouTube, for someone that shoots 100 or 60 frames per second, and you're watching a video, like, do you think on an iPhone you would notice the difference, really? I mean, I think if you were watching Netflix and you were watching a movie, I think that you could see something, but like, I don't know about YouTube.
I think for higher frame rates, it will make a difference. I think if you're shooting in if you're watching a film that's shot in like a normal 24 or 30 frames per second, you probably won't notice a difference. But whenever you get into that high frame rate, which most movies are not shot in high frame rate because it kind of can give a soap opera feel.
Okay.
Some YouTube channels shoot in 60 frames per second. But a lot of that has to do with the type of footage that they're doing. They're doing more talking to the camera, less acting in action.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think it will make a difference for the viewer in certain circumstances, but I think a lot of it's going to be that transition between apps, opening apps, closing apps, animations, things like that.
Cool.
But they do say that that's only going to be on 2 of the iPhone 12 models. So the 6.1 inch and the 6.7 inch. That's right. I said 2, and then I also gave you 2 sizes. So that's the other rumor, is the iPhone 12 is supposedly going to come in 3 different sizes. A 5.4 inch model, a 6.1 inch model, and then an even bigger 6.7. Right now, the iPhone 11 Pro Max, the biggest one, is 6.5. So we could get a little bit bigger phone, and then we could also get a little bit smaller phone, and then have that size in between. I believe your phone, the 10S, the 10R, is 6.1.
Yes, that's what I Googled as well.
I think that's the same size as the 11. Not the Pro 11, but the 11. So it's basically going to be the same, similar to what we see right now with the 11 Pro, correct, and the 11 Pro Max, but the Max is going to be a little bit bigger.
Okay. Yeah, 11 and 10R are both 6.1.
Yeah. So they're saying that 120 hertz won't be in the 12, but it'll be in the Pro models. So we'll see if that happens. Of course, 5G, we talked about this over the last probably 6 or 7 months. There were rumors that it's not going to happen, and then there's rumors that it is going to happen. now they're pretty confident that this is going to happen. Like, if they don't put 5G in their brand new phone, it's going to be a huge mistake just because cities already have it.
They're going to miss the boat. Yeah.
Yeah, back in January, cities really didn't have it turned on, and now it's turned on, and it may be a little early, but I really think it's just something that they probably are like, we need to make this happen.
Well, I think too, it's close enough. Like, yeah, cities have it turned on, and so yeah, there are certain places where you can use it. But also, if you are the type of person, which I am, if you're the type of person that uses your phone for at least 2 years, if not a little bit longer, like you're to the point now where 2 years from now, I want my phone to have 5G in it. You know?
That's a really good point.
And so if this year happens to be the year that I get my new phone, like I want it to have 5G 2 years from now, because everything will.
And how good of a thing would that be? Like, say you buy the 12 and you have 5G, but our Springfield area doesn't have 5G yet. And then 6 months down the road, all of a sudden your phone becomes extremely fast.
Yeah. How cool is that?
What a good feeling for the end user to actually be able to have a phone that's already stupid fast, because this A14 chip that they're going to put in it is supposed to be insane. Then to make it even faster, just randomly one day you wake up and all of a sudden 5G's turned on.
Right, yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
They are saying that there are going to be some pretty big improvements to Face ID, so much so that they're saying that the wide angle might even allow you to like just have your phone sitting on a desk. You touch the screen and basically at a real steep angle. I think you talked about this a week or so ago. that was one of the big downfalls, is that you had to pick up your phone if it was sitting on a desk, where if it had Touch ID, you could just touch it.
Well, the other thing is sometimes, so my Qi charger for my phone, because I have a couple of them, but the one that I use most often, like, you can charge it in portrait or landscape. And so sometimes I have it sitting on there in landscape. And so when I go to open it, I either have to cock my head at a 90-degree angle, or I have to pick it up. But also, the times when it is just sitting on the desk, like, that'd be super cool if it would open from that sort of an extreme angle.
Well, I can tell you, the iPad Pro, it lets you, no matter if you're landscape or portrait, it'll unlock.
Really?
And yes, that is one of the biggest frustrations with the iPhone, because I'll have my phone on my tripod when I'm recording YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
And I have to turn my head sideways.
Yeah.
Or
it's so frustrating.
Like, drives me bananas. It's like, come on. I don't know what the difference is between the iPhone and the iPad camera technology, but you would think that the phones we have, it would just be a software update. Like, the camera sees sideways, so I don't know. Maybe there's got to be something deeper in it.
I do want to say, selfishly, I'm bummed that it affects you, but I'm glad that it also affects you, and it's not just because I have a 10R, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, I totally get it. I mean, it's one of those things, is like, whenever you experience that part of Face ID, you're like, really? This is really, I have to turn my head. You're shooting like tens of thousands of dots on my face. Figure it out.
Right. Figure it out. Figure out that I'm 90 degrees to the right.
Yes. Oh man, that does drive me crazy. I'm glad that drives you crazy too. No offense, but
right. Yes. I get it. Yeah.
So they're also saying that whenever they do this, they're going to make the notch smaller. So
I have been hearing that.
Yeah, we might get a few more centimeters of screen up top, which would be cool, because a lot of people, when the notch came out, like, were like, this is the stupidest thing ever. But really, there's a lot of like permanent data that lives up there on your phone, whether you have a notch or you don't have a notch, like your clock, your cell phone and Wi-Fi signal, and your battery life. Things that are never used for anything else other than that. So in my mind, that part of the screen was always unusable to apps.
Yeah.
For the most part. So the notch never really bothered me, and it gave iPhone a unique look that everybody knows what it is when they see it.
Yeah.
So if they can shrink this notch down a little bit, that'll be pretty neat to be able to add more of those little icons up top that we might be missing. But that'll be interesting to see if they actually shrink that down.
Yeah.
The thing that I am super excited about, Chad, and we talked about this before, is the camera. I always knew that the iPhone 11 camera was freaking phenomenal. My father-in-law has the 11 Pro Max. The night vision or the night photos on that are so superior to any other phone camera I have ever seen. They're phenomenal. And I was really excited to hear that basically this is going to be a major update to all low light photography, video, and slow motion. I'm stoked about that because, I do all my recording for my YouTube channel on my iPhone. And so having something that can basically pick up low light conditions, 'cause sometimes I'm recording late at night in my garage and I don't have super, super bright lights, but I need that extra oomph. And then maybe I'm out in the woods and it's shaded and it's a little dark. That'll be nice for it to pick up on that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's also going to get that LiDAR scanner. So in theory, they're saying that you could do depth videos. So depth, like the bokeh, how they blur that background on the portrait mode.
Yeah.
They're saying with the LiDAR scanner, they can make that portrait mode photos even like 10 million times better because it's like scanning everything. It knows all the depth and it's just basically scanning everything all the time, but they could also do it with video with that. So you could blur the background of your video and everything that's in the forefront would just pop out big time. I don't know if you've really paid much attention to like some videos that do this already with their high-end cameras where they'll be interviewing somebody and the background has a nice light blur to it. You can kind of tell that there's stuff there, but the interview person is they just
Crystal.
pop out. Yeah. So that's the type of stuff that they're saying that you might be able to do with the new iPhone 12 camera, which is crazy.
So I think that's going to be great. I had the 7 Plus, and that was, I think, the first phone that they had the portrait mode on. And basically the way it worked is it found whatever was in the center of frame, focused on it, and then blurred everything else. Because you could put a nice flower in the center of frame, and like if the flower was too big, it blurred the edges or whatever. And then I have a 10R now. It actually does some facial recognition, but that's kind of frustrating to me because in order to do portrait mode, you have to have a face. Like you can't get it to focus on something else and then blur the background of that. So perhaps if it's actually scanning everything, it can, because it's in the foreground, it can find the thing that you are trying to focus on, whether it's a face or not, and allow you to take some good nature photography too, because I really liked doing that with my 7, but it wasn't perfect,
Right.
And
one thing that I really hope for, and similar to that, is that say you're sitting there either with a photo or a video and you want to focus in on a certain object, but it might not be in the foreground. It might be kind of in between the background. I don't know what that's called. Mid-ground? I don't know.
Yeah, the mid-ground.
So I don't know if you know this trick on the current iPhone, but you can touch the screen and it will focus on that area and it will adjust the lighting, the auto white balance and the lighting balance and all that stuff for you. You can also hold your finger on it. Like if you have a flower that you want to focus on, you can hold your finger on on the screen where that flower is, and it autofocus locks.
Yeah.
So it locks on that object. What I'm hoping is that with this LiDAR system, with video and photography, is that that's more accurate. So you could be filming somebody and then you could touch their face and it would blur everything in the background. And then you could touch something else, like maybe a car that's next to them, and it would then take the focus off of them and then put the focus on the vehicle.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that there's a lot of that, like, kind of smooth, focus transitions that you see.
Yeah.
You see this a lot with a lot of professional, photos. One of the most recent ones that I saw was somebody was filming a field and they were focused way out in the field and you could see like the wheat and stuff moving.
Mm-hmm.
And then the focus got brought back. And since the object that was close to them was so skinny, you couldn't see it when it was zoomed way out or focused way out on the distance.
Yeah.
But when they zoomed back in, the focus took focus of this tiny little flower that was always in the picture, but you couldn't see it because the focus was way out and it was kind of blurring everything in the front.
Right.
That would be some really cool stuff. And I imagine people can make some crazy B-roll for videos.
Yeah.
If they had that control. And I think the LiDAR system will probably give more of that type of control.
Well, that'll be pretty cool. I think I'm going to buy an iPhone 12 now.
Dude, I really think that I need to look at my plan and see. I think I'm eligible for an upgrade with a trade-in. So if I am at that point in time, it's going to probably be a no-brainer for me. It's I just think I'm going to do it. But the last two things on the iPhone 12 is the telephoto lens is supposedly going to get an upgrade to the zoom. It's going to go from 2 to possibly 3 times optical. So you'll be able to get a little bit closer without having to use digital zoom. But then they're saying that the main lens will potentially have up to 30x digital with some sort of enhancement, because right now they only let you go to 10 and it gets kind of blurry at 10. So hopefully,
it gets real grainy.
Yes. So hopefully with whatever digital enhancement that they can do, if they can get to 30, even if 30 is grainy like it is at 10 now, maybe 20 and 10 will be super clear.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah, those are the rumors for the old iPhone 12. It looks pretty cool. I'm hoping that these things happen. And dude, we are in the middle of May at this point. September and November and October and all those months that seem so distant will be here before we know it, and that phone will be out.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, the way we went from Monday to Monday this past week was absolutely insane. Just a little peek behind the curtain real quick. I am loving how little delay there is right now. Like,
let me tell you, I'm using my phone in LTE. Is flying fast.
Yeah. It makes me super happy that it's working so well today, but it kind of makes me mad that it's been so bad in the past few weeks.
I know. I think a lot of it is my Wi-Fi. I've got gig internet, so I got super fast internet, but with the whole family home, I think in working from home and my wife working from home, we're just eating up the bandwidth. I mean, it's crazy how much data. I looked at my data usage the other day, and I was like 1.3 terabytes of data downloaded and uploaded. So I was holy crap. I usually only do like 400 or 500 gigs, but since we're working from home and the kids are home, it's just like, we're just like drinking it like it's just water. It's unreal.
That's crazy. So Elon, I think our boy's losing it.
Do you think he's losing it?
I don't know. So I had him on the list last week because he did something that freaked me out.
What did he do?
It must have been on Monday because that's when we record, but I think that Friday previous, Tesla was trading for like 8 something a share.
Yeah.
And either over the weekend or early Monday, he said Tesla's trading too high, and it dropped like $150 just like that. And so it was down in the 7s, and now it's, or last time I looked, I haven't looked today, but last time I looked last week, it was back up in the 8s again. And so like it didn't really matter ultimately, but like he totally tanked the stock price for a day and a half.
Didn't he get in trouble for something like that?
Yeah, he does some stuff every now and then. But beyond that, so this is actual Tesla news. The county in California where his plant is for Tesla, he wants to reopen it, but they're still on lockdown. And so I read last week that a bunch of, like, all of the Michigan auto plants have been given permission to open today, the 11th. And Elon, of course, wants to open Tesla back up, but he still doesn't have permission. And so I read this morning that he's threatening to move either to different states or maybe even out of the country.
Texas or Nevada, I think that's what he said. And Texas was one of them.
Yeah. And so that's interesting. I mean, given all the work that they put into building that. So this is where money becomes just a figment of the imagination. Like, all the money that he's put into building the battery plant and the Tesla, like the actual car manufacturing factory, like, to say, like, well, F it. I'll just close those and we'll move. You know? Is just, like, that's an insane thought to even be able to think. And he totally is able to think that.
Right. And here's the deal. I kind of get where he's coming from, because the state and the federal government say it's okay, go ahead, start your business back up. And he has said before, he's actually come out and said, look, if you are my employee and you don't feel comfortable coming into work, don't come into work. It's fine. I will support that. If you need to social distance more, I support that. It's one person in the county who is basically saying, we're not going to reopen our county, even though the federal government and the state says go ahead.
Yeah. And
so that's why he's super pissed, because he's like, all these other manufacturers are getting to open up, and it's actually a person who wasn't an elected official, and it's a person who, basically the big thing is that he was saying, look, you're not an elected official, and you're acting like you can enforce laws like somebody who would pass a law as an elected official. I think his big thing, because he was on the Joe Rogan podcast this last week, and it was real interesting to hear him and some of his thoughts on it. And I know a lot of people probably don't agree with him, but a lot of people probably do agree with him. He's kind of a wild card no matter which way you look at it, because he's just such an interesting character that, you know, he feels that there's a lot of overstepping by officials and government and all that stuff. And of course, he's a private business person, so it's like he wants to make money. He wants to keep rolling.
Right.
And I don't blame him. I mean, he's like, look, dudes, I've cooperated for this long. I've got to get going again. So this is going to be a real interesting time. And what's really interesting to me about this whole topic isn't so much this whole like coronavirus, like legal government type stuff. It's the fact that a major tech industry has basically said, we're done with this. We're going to sue you if you don't let us open. So I had no idea who it would be first, but I always thought somebody's going to get sued over this. What's it going to be about? How's it going to go? And it's just shocking to see that it's a major, like, I call them a tech company, because essentially that's what they are. They're making
that's how they trade
cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they push the limits of that industry using technology. So, I mean, I don't know who I would have thought it would have been, but to see a major company, and maybe it's the fact that it's a major company and not a whole bunch of small companies like doing a class action lawsuit.
Sure.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, but I guarantee you, Texas is like, hell yeah, come on over, Elon. We'll take you any day.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's, and what the other thing that's interesting to me about it is that California is such a big, tech state. I mean, they've got Silicon Valley there and all that stuff. And to see somebody who is in the technology industry basically say, you know what, we'll just move. We've got other options. It's kind of like, what are other companies going to say? Are other companies that are small going to be like, wow, we don't want to grow our business here because we don't want to have to be held down by these super strict rules in the future. So you might see more big tech businesses or small tech businesses that aren't big yet moving to more of the middle of the U.S.
Sure. Yeah. Where it's a little more lax and a little, I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
The other reason I say he might be losing his mind, did you see what they named their baby?
He's definitely lost his damn mind on that. Jesus, dude. What the hell? No one can even say it.
Well, right, because it's not a word. But did you see, so it's Elon Musk and Grimes. Grimes is a music artist of some sort. I think like EDM techno type stuff, but I'm not positive. But did you see the explanation for the name?
I heard him explain it on Joe Rogan. I only remember the very last part, and he came up with it, which was like A12 or X12 or something.
A-12.
Yeah. And it had something to do with like.
So I've got it. If you want me to just ramble through it. So the kid's name is XAE-A12, and X is the unknown variable. So they're predicting that this child is gonna change the world because he's the unknown variable. And when I say AE, I mean the word, like the letter when they're smushed together.
Yeah, it's like a symbol.
Like Old English. That was her elven interpretation of, shoot, I did forget it. It was her elven symbol for something, so apparently she's an elf, which is super cool. And then
that's awesome. Good for her.
And then A12 was the predecessor to their favorite aircraft, which is the SR-71.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I mean, starting a whole revolution here. You know, some people believe that he is the Messiah. So maybe she carried the second coming of Jesus. I don't know.
Well, California told them that they can't have numbers in the kid's name, so they're going to have to change his name already.
I'm sure they'll sue for that too.
Sure.
What I do wonder though, it is curious. Why can't you have a number in a name? Like, why are there laws against that?
Well, without trying to take us down too dark of a path, a lot of people have a lot of problems with numbers in names because of the Auschwitz stuff, with the Jewish people being branded and tattooed with numbers.
I gotcha.
So anytime you start kind of doing that, obviously they're not going to treat their child like a prisoner of Auschwitz. But anytime you start putting numbers in names, people are kind of instantly reminded of that as part of world history.
I could see that. I could see
Yeah.
that for sure.
Um,
Oh man.
but outside of that, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm sure they don't want people to name their kids 234. But at the same time, there's a lot of other really shitty names that do get to go through. And...
Yeah, like Apple.
Right.
I mean, love of God. Stop naming your people after fruit.
Yeah, so, I don't know. Do you have anything else for the week?
I don't.
Right.
I think we should probably do some crazy tech.
Let's do it.
All right.
Upload pic, get it wrong, it needs cropped right back down to size. Spend the day, try to fade, in and out the background shapes. No one knows, never will. Photoshop, it's on time hop. Made a mistake, what do I do when it won't come down? I just wanna get this pic off the cloud. It's taken me all this time to edit in quarantine. Yeah. I just wanna get this pic off the cloud. It's taken me all this time.
All right. So, crazy tech time. And I'm going to let you go first. How about that?
Okay. Oh, let's do it.
right.
So I was frantically searching for something before we jumped on to start recording.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across something that I had never even heard of before, but I guess it's been around as at least a thought or a concept for a while. But solar highways, they've been tested here and there. The US and Europe and some different places have tried it. But the thought is you have all of these, I don't know, billions and trillions and quadrillions of square miles of highway all across the country. And if you could somehow figure out how to put solar panels down as your kind of surface layer of the road, then you've got this grid system all across the country that's providing solar power. And hey, that'd be pretty cool, right?
Yeah, be kind of crazy.
Yeah, so far they haven't really found anything that kind of holds up over time. But I read briefly, very briefly, that China has found something. So they actually use a harder type of concrete for their roads, which, imagine that. I mean, China's government is bad, and we all know that. No one wants to live under authoritarianism. But when you do run everything with an iron fist, you can just do whatever you want to do. And if you decide to make your roads really strong, then you can do that because you say so, right?
Right.
And so they use a harder type of concrete, which stands up longer. And they have found a thin material that will kind of hold up to 45,000 cars a day traveling over it, which I don't know. I don't know how far out it is or if it'll ever really even be a thing that happens, but it's cool that people are still thinking outside the box. Because obviously, a lot of houses, even around here, have solar panels on the roof. Or have some larger properties will have an array in their yard or something. And that's pretty cool and pretty forward thinking. And I know that I don't know if it's actually Tesla or if it's another one of Elon's companies, but they've talked about the solar roofing tiles, and they're not the only ones that have roof plates that they're trying to use as roofing material, but I'm just glad that people are still thinking, and it's not okay, well, we have this, that's good enough, right? I like that we're still considering other options.
Yeah, and I mean, heck, if they can do something like that, that's a lot of square footage, man.
Yeah,
that's just sitting there,
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's what I think is the coolest part about it is that somebody's thinking about using something that's already there
Right.
for another resource.
Right. Because the thing with solar is that it takes up so much space. No matter if you're using photovoltaic or if you're using mirrors to heat up and make steam, like however you do solar, it takes a lot of space.
Yes.
And so, yeah, if you've got all of this, it's not unused because it's being driven on every single day. But
right.
in terms of a permanent fixture, it's completely unused.
Right.
It's just there.
Yeah.
And so I think that's pretty cool.
It's a passive item once it's put down. Things are used on top of it, but if you can make it more of an active item of, cars travel passively over it or actively over it, but it serves the same purpose, but then you all of a sudden are harnessing energy from it.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
I think it's super cool.
Solar highway. Huh. So my crazy tech is something that I got for my wife a few weeks ago for her birthday. She wanted some of those hanging lights, like outdoor patio lights that are on a string.
Yeah.
The
ones with the bigger bulbs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you see them at restaurants a lot. Outdoor patios. She wanted a way to be able to turn them on remotely or dim them. Finding something that would allow me to dim them with the amount of watts that's being pulled from the number of bulbs we have is very difficult. I'm still working on that, but I did get this really cool outdoor smart home switch that's HomeKit compatible. And it's made by a company called Meross, Meross. And they make them HomeKit compatible for $5 more than the non-HomeKit compatible version. And basically, because I was like, that's a no-brainer for me because I use HomeKit stuff. So
yeah,
for $30, it's an outdoor plug that takes one plug and gives you two separate plugs. And each one of those plugs can be used independently and be named separate things. So I have my hanging lights plugged into one, and then I've got an extra one that I could plug something else into if I wanted to. So now I can tell my Apple Assistant, turn on my patio lights, and it'll turn on those string lights. I can also use Alexa to do it. I can use Google Home to do that. And it's all waterproof. So this thing can stay outside and get rained on. And I thought it was pretty cool because generally you spend, if you want one of those timers for like Christmas lights, you usually spend, I don't know, $15, $20. Well, you could spend $10 more if you wanted the HomeKit compatible one, or $5 more. So $25 for the non-HomeKit compatible, $30 for the HomeKit compatible. And you could plug your Christmas lights into these things if you wanted to and be able to switch them on and off. And I don't know, the price is what got me. I was actually shocked to see that it was only $30 because whenever I originally looked at these things, they were $50, $60 last year. And now this company makes them and they sell them on Amazon for $30 and they're HomeKit compatible. It's one of the cheapest HomeKit compatible items I've ever bought. Seems like everything HomeKit compatible is very expensive in comparison to just standard like Alexa smart home type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool so far. I really like that you can separate it out. Oh, yeah, just go figure. It's raised. It went to $34.99. I just pulled it up.
Of course.
So I got a deal on it, but you can get them from Amazon Warehouse for $30. But I did not get Amazon Warehouse. I bought it brand new for $29.99. So they've gone up to $35, but still pretty good deal for an outdoor switch that's HomeKit compatible.
Yeah. I think that means that you're a market mover.
Is that what it is? I meant to do that. I totally meant to do that.
Uh-huh,
sorry, guys. Sorry, not sorry.
Right. Well, that's pretty
that's
cool.
all I have for the week. How about you?
That's all I got.
All right, man. Why don't you tell them where they can find us?
All right. You can find us all over the internet. We're on social media on Facebook and Instagram at LunchTimeTechTalk, and we're on Twitter at LunchTimeTechT1. We have a Patreon page, patreon.com/LunchTimeTechTalk. We've got 2 tiers. You can throw us $1 or $5 a month and help us pay for our annual fees, and once we actually can start recording together again, maybe buy some decent microphones. I don't know. We'll see. But outside of that, we've got a website, LunchTimeTechTalk.com. There you can browse show notes and listen to old episodes. And there's like today, we talked about a new iPhone and Tesla. And it's all pretty topical to like today. But there's plenty of stuff back through that's a little bit timeless. We're, talking about e-bikes or, Zwifting on a platform that, they get updates from time to time, but it doesn't really change. And so there's plenty of old stuff that you can browse through and listen to and see how much better we've gotten at this, hopefully. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at MSUMac. That's MSUMACC. Mike, where you at?
I am on, just go to runbikemike.com.
Boom! Because he's got a website, y'all.
Yeah, so go to runbikemike.com. The top menu, whether you're on your mobile phone or whether you're on the computer, you will see a link to all of my social media, my Patreon page for my YouTube channel, and my Teespring page for my YouTube channel. So check it out. Follow both of us. There are days that we are interesting, and there are days that we're not, because we are normal human beings just doing our thing. So
right, so true.
If you want to see what normal life is like, and not that fantasy world that all the other people on social media live, follow us.
Boom. I think you sold it.
Yes. So, cool, right, man. I think that's it for the week, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.